This is One Ogden. I'm John Miles. Josh is the brewer and founder of Sunte Kombucha, a company started in Ogden that's grown popular throughout the western United States. Now Josh has plans to split with his corporate partners and refocus on the Ogden area, beginning with their campaign to make kombucha local again. Okay, so did you grow up here?
No, I'm a military brat that I moved here when I was 11 due to my dad's military career.
And so, like, the military forced you guys here?
Well, I think my parents chose to move here. He had some options. I think Utah's where they met. They met at basic training in Layton.
Oh, okay.
At Hill. So.
All right. So military brought them together and brought them here.
Yeah,
huh?
military brought them together, and then they spent. So I was born in Panama.
Okay.
So after they met in on Hill Base, I was born in Panama, and then 3 years later they moved to the Midwest. We spent some time in a little place called Plattsmouth, Nebraska, and then my whole family's in the South Dakota, Kansas area. So
like, where'd you go to high school?
I went to Ogden High.
Okay.
So I graduated Ogden High 05.
Nice. And so, just how'd you get started in kombucha?
It was a health thing. So I was working a physical job. I was a landscaper in the summer, and I was a snowboard instructor in the wintertime. And so being active and healthy was a big part of it, and my diet absolutely sucked, and I was just at a point in my life where I'm like, man, I got to change something. And I had a buddy who had a bottle of kombucha, and I was like, what is that? He's like, it's kombucha, man. You want to try it? First drink, I was like, oh, this is something. And I'm like, so what's the story? He's like, well, it's this and this. And I just started drinking it, and it changed my gut health, immediately. The first couple of days, I was just mind blown. And then I started spending all my money on kombucha every day, $4 or $5 a bottle or whatever it was at that time. And so then I found a way to brew it at home, which turns out to be easier than making beer or other things. And but it is a time, like every 7 days you're cycling, right? You're doing a new batch, you're brewing new sugar. So I was just doing that for about 2 years, and then had a buddy hit me up and said, we have an opportunity. Do you want to do this for work? And I said, okay. And that's kind of like their initial origins. So
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, like, what is kombucha then? Like,
So kombucha, in essence, is just tea and sugar fermented with this bacteria called a SCOBY, a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And it just eats up the sugars and the tannins and the caffeine from the tea and sugar and turns it into probiotics, amino acids, lactic acid, and acetic acid. So it's just overall like a nature's health beverage.
so it's like a tea that you put sugar and yeast in, and then that stuff starts reacting, and it creates, like, does it?
So yeast is a part of the bacteria. So the SCOBY, that symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, is they operate together, the bacteria and the yeast.
But you add the SCOBY to it.
Yeah, but the yeast happens during fermentation. So you get more yeast as a reaction to the fermentation. The probiotic eat up things and, in essence, poop out yeast. And then the yeast then eat more sugar and create CO2, and it's this whole symbiotic process.
Where does the SCOBY come from?
So that it's like the what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like the same kind of, like, we don't really know if the SCOBY just was something that somebody found. So kombucha, in essence, is really old. There's history, like Buddha times, that there's old stories about kombucha. Like the Mongols would drink it to go into battle. They were known to have a flask of kombucha on their hip to keep them aggressive and healthy during battle. And there's an old story, like there's this great book called the Kombucha Bible that they made. It's just like a great instructor on how to do kombucha at home. And they tell you this little story at how a monk set a glass of sweet tea on his window and let it sit. And several days later, this biomass, or a fruit fly dropped on the tea, and then several days later, this biomass appeared. And that's like the origin of kombucha, where it's like this, it just kind of happened, and then they started utilizing it, and the monk drank it and realized that he felt revitalized, and so it's an Eastern thing. So we're Eastern Russia.
But so, like, these are like the probiotics, they're like alive, right?
Yeah.
They're like...
It's a completely alive beverage. Like you have active live bacteria going into your
So
guts.
that's my stupid question is, are you creating life?
Maybe, dude. I mean, in essence, yeah, but I think you do the same thing when you create a sourdough or yogurt, or you're creating life anytime you work with certain food, and that's what's really cool is like the symbiosis where it always comes back to for me, because it's like the synergy of people and things working together to create one unified thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
I can nerd out on the SCOBY all day. Like, there's a lot of really cool things that they can do with SCOBYs and the synergy of it. You know.
Well, and what can they do for what can they do for the gut? Like, what do they do inside the body?
So basically, neutralize acids and make your body better at digesting all the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. So not to get too crass, but you poop better.
Okay.
You have a more clean bowel, and it just tends to like help your body digest the things that are typically very hard to digest. If you have a very high red meat diet, like I did initially, it really helps digest that stuff and really helps your body just deal with all the garbage inside of you.
Right. So you're putting living bacteria that feed on garbage into your body to eat the garbage that's in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stuff that we can't get out due to like how our diets are, especially in the United States.
And they're kind of like hard to come by, probiotics. Like it's only like maybe yogurt.
Yeah, and well, it's hard to come by live, like truly alive probiotics. Like most companies are using some sort of powdered or neutralized made bacteria in a lab, so they can count exactly how many millions or billions of that certain bacteria are in the kombucha. Whereas like ours, we can't measure that because we're not putting it in; it's being created. And we try to keep ours as alive as possible. We don't neutralize it. We don't heat it up. We try to brew it for a short time so that it's more alive and less, and still fits the parameter that we're required to follow due to state laws and stuff.
So are there ways to know how much probiotics are in there? Or?
Yeah. So doing a mass I always butcher this word, spectronomy. I even still butchered it.
Spectronomy?
Yes, that one. And that can tell you, but it's very, very expensive. Okay. And you have to kind of know what you're looking for. And a lot of times in this bacterial world, there's still bacteria that have not been identified. So to really know every strain of bacteria is very difficult, especially when you're working with a product. So that's why most companies will just add it so they can say, oh, yeah, there's 1 million of this.
Yeah. All right. So you start making kombucha. Somebody says, hey, let's start selling this stuff. So you start doing it. And when does it, is it a business at that point, or when does it kind of take off?
So yeah, I have a unique origin story in that essence is that I got an angel investor who backed me initially because of a friend of mine, and I won't mention names just to protect them, but yeah, those two guys were big catalysts, like people I still have a lot of gratitude to this day, all right, because I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And so we have one guy who knew my product, who was a local dude who's still around, and if he ever watches this, I love you, dude. He knows who he is. But he kind of got me into the world. And then dealing with the investment, that's where, obviously relationships and different things happen. And we had that typical, investment didn't like my buddy, and I was already tied into this. I had a family and things to worry about. I chose kombucha because of the situation. And I'm grateful that I did, because it got me in a position to hopefully make it my own. Yeah. But that's where it started. Is this guy invested. We did small batch initially, like we showed you earlier, in those small 5-gallon tanks, and just worked our way up. So when we first we did a bunch of research. We went to Colorado. We did a fun road trip, and we wanted to figure out, what's the best way to sell kombucha? And there's 2 ways. You have your distribution, which is like the big guys, GT Kombucha, locally Mama Chari's, Hans Kombucha. They do the packaging thing. And then there's the tap house version, which you'll find in a lot of really cool places like Oregon and all over. I think the East Coast has some too, where you go and they'll just have a collection of tap houses. Actually, there's a cool place in Salt Lake they just put in, and I'm going to blank the name, but they're a really cool tap house that serves all kombuchas, and then you just go in and get a kombucha of your choice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the hope, was we wanted to be a part of that version of the business, of having kegs and having tap and then putting that in local businesses around. And that's how we started.
Yeah.
So our shout out to Sadie from Grounds for Coffee on 25th Street. She was one of the first people who allowed us to sell our product in her shop. And we first place to have our kegerators. Her and then Susie up on 30th Street in Grounds for Coffee. Those two were the first places that let us in. And then Good Earth on Riverdale. So I have a soft spot for all those three of those businesses that just gave us a chance and gave us an opportunity to sell our product to the community. And so it went from that then to, 2 years later, the focus was packaging. We still sold to those people. Eventually, they got rid of the kegerators because they're kind of a mess. And then we did bottles and cans. And so from that point until like currently, we were doing just mostly packaging. We still sold kegs. That was still a big part of it. But we were really just producing like 6 of our main stays.
Okay. So like you're here, you're doing the brewing, and you're like networking with some local stuff, but then there's this kind of other half of the business where they're like, big money side and let's send this out as far as we can.
Big corporate mentality, like majorly. Like it was, they wanted to just blow up and be big. Uh-huh. And I mean, there's just two businesses, right, out there in the world. Like you have your huge mass distribution marketing method, and then you have your local friends and family and people you care about kind of business. And I was always one foot in that world and one foot in that world because that's what they were pursuing.
Right.
And it never felt right to be in that world. Especially as like a unique product like we have, where we're doing things very specifically. And there's a lot of cool scientific things about kombucha and how it ferments in a specific space that it makes it kind of like where it's from's kombucha.
Right.
Based on like air quality, where it's, like all the unique things you get in an environment actually get put into the kombucha. So you're making a local product.
Yeah, right. It's the environment seems very involved in.
I think it's a little bit like similar to like the honey analogy, right? If you eat honey that's the pollen has been brought from the bees from a local area, it's good for your allergies. Mm-hmm. I think potentially, there's no scientific proof to this, so don't take my word for it, but I feel as though there's some of that carryover where it's brewed is going to benefit you health-wise because of the air, like just the air quality. Like it's all getting in this product.
Yeah. But so you said that's how it is up until just recently. Is it like changing now?
So changing, yeah. We're going. I partnered with a local guy, Dennis, who does I Dig Ogden, and a couple in Shane Sweet Gardens, a couple other businesses. But he kind of, in essence, is my little savior in a lot of ways to kind of help me keep this thing moving, just because I'm not as business savvy. Like I just have a mind for the production and how I want to do it and all that stuff. And really, that's a lot for one person just to manage all the fermentation. And not that I was always managing just that. I had a crew who was helping me when we were a bigger company. But as this kind of thing went the other direction and investment pulled out, those people had to live their lives and do what they needed to do to survive. So
sure. But so now you're gonna you get to still focus on your thing, but Dennis is focusing on a new like sales strategy kind of deal.
Yeah, so we're gonna do the I Dig Ogden method, where you can get on his website and purchase our product, and he'll have it delivered to you to your home. And then we're also doing a method. Hopefully, you're gonna start to see us in other local shops, Brookie Bakes, Grounds for Coffee on 25th. Lotus Cafe, and there's some other ones coming up that we're working on. And then we're just going to slowly try to integrate into as many local businesses that will take us. And hopefully the ones that are already, hopefully we can keep doing business with Good Earth. And also like Daily Rise and some of these people we've worked with. And just start from there. And then hopefully we can get a way for people to purchase direct from our facility here in the BDO.
So the hope is you're kind of moving away from trying to cast a wide net and just kind of really focus in local Ogden area.
I want to have a space where the local people, like everybody can come, like a farmer's market every day, where you can come. Because we had some of the best recognition in business at our farmers markets. I mean, if you're a farmer market goer, you probably saw us. If you did kombucha, you definitely did. And we just do this refill thing where you can come and refill your growler, or any receptacle that you have for that matter, and then you pay by the ounce. Mm-hmm. And we want to have that, or that my dream and manifestation is to have a space in Ogden somewhere where you can do that all the time. And then obviously over time start to add other things. There's some really cool products that I want to start doing, like kombucha smoothies, potentially kombucha sorbet. Like I have a lot of fun recipes that can utilize kombucha. And that's what's cool about kombucha in essence is potentially there's no waste, especially if you have a back-end dentist composts and does a lot of compost stuff. So we potentially as a company could have zero waste.
Wow.
Well, a large percentage of waste. I mean, you're always going to have some small percentage of waste, but
that's cool. And so, like, I don't know, what does the process of buying it look like? Is it just, are you guys just, are you guys just going all in? Are you doing crowdfunding, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we're doing kind of a little bit of each of those. We're doing a crowdfunding right now. We have this little kind of marketing thing where we're playing on that goofy Trump thing where we're to make kombucha local again. And you'll see those posters kind of all up over Ogden, especially downtown on 25th Street. And we're just kind of asking for donations to start with. And then we're working on finding some local investment and hopefully owning it ourselves and us in whatever way that is, potentially SBA or whatever the method works out to be. But currently we're starting with getting everybody knowing that this is what we're doing, that we're moving forward to purchasing it, and then hopefully giving our community a chance to kind of help us with that, and then us finding the rest of it.
Nice.
And we have a lot of really fun potential like planned projects with local community stuff with the facility that I'm excited about as well.
Yeah, can you talk about any of that?
I mean, it's all up in the air and what ifs, but yeah, potentially our kitchen here could be a space where local food trucks could come and prep their food and have a portion of it especially separated so they can prep their food trucks and have that be a part of the local kind of business space where they can come, park their vans, come do their prep, and then go sell their product out and have like a kitchen that's being monitored and kind of managed regularly so they can just come in real quick and give it a shot.
If you were to dare to dream 5 years down the road, like what does that look like? What do you guys look like then?
For me, it would be our community kitchen would be fully operational, and we'd have this large facility for our storage and for them to come in, prep for their food trucks, and have that space to be able to do whatever they needed to do legally to be able to prep their food. And whatever that means, if cooking a portion of it, cutting up the vegetables, whatever legally they needed, and then also having kind of a commissary for all local products. So their product, if they do a packaged product, or if they are just a local purveyor that have their own kind of facility to do it, they come and they can sell their product here at this local only commissary in essence.
That's cool.
So you get our kombucha, and then I would be in a storefront somewhere downtown or that just works for us. I mean, obviously anybody who's lived in Ogden wants to be on 25th Street. Like that's the iconic space. That's the dream. But somewhere that just works for us, whether that's on 25th or on Washington or wherever really, that people could come and just come get smoothies, come get kombucha by the
that's like
growler.
Serving it fresh, making
and then just doing
out of it.
Yeah, and then I want to have I love the coffee business, but I want to offer, because tea is a major part of my product, I just want to offer tea beverages as well. So creating new, unique kind of like coffee-like tea drinks, doing like tea lattes and funky different frozen versions of that, matcha, and all kinds of versions, and then also people being able to come and get ingredients to brew their own kombucha. Yeah. So offering good quality organic sugar, and also a wide variety of unique organic teas that hopefully we can start to get ethically procured from growers all over the world.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, sugar has got to be impossible to source locally, right?
Oh yeah, impossible locally. I mean, we use organic cane sugar from Kirkland. Like for what it is, it's the best version of what we do.
Yeah.
The crystallized stuff is what I like to use.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many versions and so many ways that you can get it. And then tea is the big thing, and having a good tea provider that's good, proven organic. Or just very proven, well grown. Because some organic certifications are hard to get across, the pond there.
Oh,
like
sure.
especially if it's grown in Asia or Africa, and so it'll be a high quality tea, but it won't have the organic. But we want to just make sure that we're getting high quality tea products that are grown without pesticides and don't have any bullshit in them. That's most important to me.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, like, just for people who want to support you guys and what you're doing as far as, taking this over or just, want to find the tea, the kombucha, where's the best place for them to go right now?
So currently, you can check us out on iDig Ogden. There's a link to our information on there, Kombucha Creations. If you see our signs, there's a QR code that you can follow that will show you how to donate to us. If you get on that website, the same QR code will be there. You can come check us out, purchase our products from the local purveyors. Currently, we got Brookie Bakes, currently Lotus Cafe, and then shortly Grounds for Coffee on 25th Street.
Great.
And then and ordering from Dennis on iDig Ogden will be the quickest ways now. And then we'll slowly be kind of in the next couple weeks, hopefully pushing out. And then in a couple months, we'll have that storefront. Lotus Cafe, I did. Yep.
And is it up on any crowdfunding right now?
So it's donations, not necessarily any crowd. We're not using a crowdfunding specific site. We're just directing direct donations.
Yeah.
We will be. The link will end up being on the QR code. Yeah. So we're gonna attach it.
And like when you do that, is it gonna be Sunte or is it like?
It's gonna be Kombucha Creations, but you're gonna know that it's Sunte. We're still deciding if we're gonna keep a version of that name, if we're gonna change it phonetically in some way. I would like to try to keep a version of that just so people can correlate it.
Yeah.
But we'll probably always keep a version that say was Sunte, now Kombucha Creations, so people can attach us to it. We want to make sure that our customers know that it's still us and we're still producing the same quality, if not a better quality product, since we're not operating in the commercial parameters anymore.
Well, yeah. Do you want to talk about that at all? Just like what can be different about the brewing process now?
Well, just now we're just less. Anytime, I don't know if, obviously there's probably local people who do packaged goods. You have to follow a bunch of damn rules, and they want to sell your product for a specific thing. And so one of our sales representative, her big thing was making sure our sugars were lower than anybody else's. And so she wanted us to keep changing our primary kombucha to match that sugar thing. And the reality is the sugar's so negligible, in my opinion, in the kombucha that 1 to 4 grams is really not that big of a difference, but you're changing a huge flavor profile. And you even tasted it yourself, where we have our new original recipe that doesn't have any less or any more sugar per gram, but tastes so.
Yeah. It's just like a full flavor. It's like there's a lot of different little flavors in there.
It's more body. I mean, one of the guys who used to work here, I won't mention his name either because he wouldn't want me to, but he was always adamant that we kept that full body flavor. And he was really excited when we were able to do that again and kind of get away. As sad as it is to see this version of Sunte go, it was kind of a necessary. Like, I feel very much like a Ragnarok or like a Phoenix in the essence, like where we have to burn up to be the version of what we've always wanted to be.
Yeah. It was like the thing that you were focusing on from the beginning, and then, there was kind of the necessary stuff.
When I was naive, I was young. I just was like, this is a great opportunity, and I didn't know that I was being taken advantage of. I could feel it, but I didn't know how to deal with it. What do I do? I saw my friend fight and hit a wall and get just knocked back and fired, and it was like, well, I don't want to go out like that. I want to be agreeable, but I also want to stand my ground. And so I did in the right circumstances where it was like they wanted to try to change something in flavor, and I just got to a point where it was like, no, if you're going to do that, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And when I held my line, they respected it, and so that's why I stuck around. And because I always knew I was going to potentially get to this position. As hokey and spiritual as it sounds, like I knew that I was gonna be able to make it my own eventually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when Dennis was on, he was talking about music, Booch. Let's talk about that a little bit. So
Yeah.
You're the guy that's here doing the brewing.
Yes, sir.
And like, are you walk us through the idea of Music Booch just real quick.
So Music Booch was just kind of this fun, weird, when Dennis and I were first kind of talking and going over potentials with this, he talked about music and sound waves, and I was like, you know what? Like, I think that's definitely a viable idea. This is what I've used to do. And we used to like, the guys who used to work here and we used to like ohm to the scobies, or we'd leave music playing, and we felt like it created like a certain vibration, a certain kind of feeling in there, and it made us feel as though we were brewing like a high energy kombucha. Whether it was all just our feelings or in our head, who knows, but it felt like the right thing to do. And so I think music could have definitely affect what the kombucha does through fermentation.
Yeah.
And so we took that plan, and Dennis is this kind of like idea machine gun that just starts throwing these great kind of processes at me. Like, how do we do this? And then I take it functionally and we get it to work. And so we did our first 3, and we had comparison, and we did 3 bands, and there was a noticeable difference between each base, like a measurable, noticeable flavor difference. And even in my kind of problematic brain where I was like, they might be similar, they got to a point where it's like, yeah, those are different. And then, so what the Music Booch is we're taking a band locally specifically, or at least here now, and we're making the kombucha listen to it in its primary fermentation the whole time, on repeat, one song. And so we're creating this product that is now kind of has the energy of the music that it's been listening to. And then I kind of creatively talk with the artist, and then kind of go in my lab, which is just a room with a table where I measure tea and stuff, and kind of figure out, okay, what's the closest profile to it, how this music now tastes. Like, one of our hashtags is the taste of music. What does music taste like? Or what does sound taste like? Or how do you interpret it? One of the fun questions we asked the artist is, if your song was a flavor, what would the flavor be?
Okay.
And so they kind of would say, well, I think maybe blueberry. And I would take that and be like, okay, I like that. I think that works with the flavor that we're going to get from the tea we're using. And then I expounded.
So you're listening to it when you're kind of creating the initial flavor.
So it's playing to the SCOBY over and over and over again, and then I'm kind of on my own time listening to the song, kind of like, okay, how is this song making me feel towards like developing a flavor?
Yeah. And like you say, the SCOBY's listening to it. You have like headphones on it or something?
Yeah. So we have speakers wrapped around it and muted, so the speaker is right on this stainless steel vat, and it's the only way you really hear it really well is putting your ear to the opposite side.
Really?
And you can hear that kind of panning in a tank sound, but it's louder than it is when you're just standing next to it.
That's cool.
So it's definitely getting in there. I wish there was a way for us to measure what's happening. Like that's my curiosity. But it's, again, a very expensive process to understand the molecular.
Too much of an investment.
Yeah.
To measure it.
Someday,
yeah,
hopefully,
right.
Maybe some crazy scientist or somebody who's in college is like, that would be a fun, clinical. But
and like now it's up to the consumer. That's the only way you can measure it.
Yeah.
And so you guys did 3 bands and you sold out of all that?
So we still have some bottles left of that. I think some more of others, but I think for the most part, we're only a case or 2 left. So we still have some available, but we're selling them as singles now and not as a case deal, I believe. And then from now on, just to give the artist and myself the time and respect it takes to develop the flavors, we're going to do one a month.
That makes sense.
So we kind of had that measuring month where we're like, okay, can we tell a difference between these 3? And then now we're going to respectfully kind of. And so that first one we use green tea just as a standard. But we're going to start to ask the artist, okay, what base do you feel like will match your flavor the best? So we have I Amazing's Booch coming up, hip-hop artist.
Yeah.
He's fun, dude, has that Latin vibe. And he wanted sweet and spicy. So I'm doing a rooibos base, listening to a song, and then we're gonna flavor it. And so I still haven't determined what flavor spicy is. I do have a certain palette that I play with because I use all in dried ingredients. So I can only I can't just go grab raw this or whatever. I could, but it's easier to control when you're using dried raw ingredients.
Yeah.
And I have that organic parameter that I follow too.
Oh yeah, right. And so, do you guys know when the I Amazing batch is gonna?
So
come out?
probably this mid-month we got a couple more days of fermentation. And then secondary takes a couple days. So by the end of this week, it'll probably be done. And then we'll package it and have it ready to sell that third week of this month until the end of the month.
Nice. I did get a taste of it along with your other ones. It was pretty good. It
Yeah,
was
the bases.
It's
you
got
got
unique. It's got a unique profile for sure.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
rooibos is such. I don't know if you've ever had rooibos on its own,
I don't
but
even
it's
know
a
what it
South
is.
African non-caffeinated beverage. So it's actually needle-like sprigs from a bush. Actually, rooibos means red bush, and it's incredibly sweet. It has a tobacco-y note. When I first brewed it, the smell that comes through is like all the good parts of tobacco. I grew up around cigar and pipe smokers. Both my grandfathers were heavy smokers, and when I was young, and I have this nostalgic kind of that smell is just so nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
And so one of our first blends was the rooibos blend called the Gentleman, and we did vanilla, clove, and peppercorn, which are normal kind of accent flavors to like a cigar or pipe tobacco.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then the idea is you drop this new batch of music, Booch. It tells everybody what the song is that goes with
Yep.
it, and they kind of drink it and listen to the song. And
Simultaneously,
have a
hopefully
full-
you have this like whole interconnection of not only you're getting this auditory experience, but you're getting this guttural, good vibe experience. And we've really wanted to explore what different music is doing. So our first three, we had a rock band and a couple singer-songwriter female voices. One was a little bit more bluesy. One was a little bit more like pure singer-songwriter. And then I Amazing's pure Latin hip-hop, like just party music.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. He makes party music. That's his vibe.
Yeah.
Party all the time,
That's
you know?
right.
And so it's super fun, super bright. And then we're doing next ensemble for May. And then one of my favorite local artists, I'm wearing a shirt just because I knew we were going to potentially talk about it.
Yeah.
But in April, however the calendar works.
June.
We're going to do Earthworm.
Yeah.
And then July, do we have an artist for July yet?
I like that though. You got different styles going on. Like it's a good way to
Well,
really see the effect.
Yeah, and I think I love exploring all music. I'm an instrumental or world or whatever. I just love music. And so I wanted that to be like where we weren't just pursuing popular music for our area, and we're specifically utilizing artists that were coming up in our area. And Earthworm was one that I've wanted to do since the beginning. But
Do you get to pick the song?
No, we want them to pick the song. Like we really want them to kind of have their creative input and like so they're a part of the process.
Yeah.
Because if I picked everything and said, well, I want this one, and potentially down the road, if someone wants to just create a song for the product, like I'm all about that too.
Yeah.
What was that? July? Lucky Find.
Okay.
So they
That's
just
July.
performed at the Van Sessions at
Just
the
this
Monarch.
last-
Yeah, on Friday.
Nice. Okay. You got a favorite local restaurant?
Oh, I have a lot, but I would have to say my all-time favorite, mostly for the customer service, is Wendy's Sukiyaki.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, what about
My lady Freddie, I got to shout out to Freddie. If she sees this, best server in Ogden, bar none, go to Wendy's Sukiyaki.
ask
Tell
for
Freddie she's a badass. Like, she's the best,
Tip her.
dude. Yeah, tip her good.
What about a favorite local nonprofit?
Oh, I'm not as knowledgeable about local nonprofits, and I have a little bit of guilt for that, but I'm not as familiar.
It's all right.
Yeah.
We'll just skip over that.
Okay.
What about local bands?
Well, I already
Or
mentioned
musicians.
Earthworm. He's like the one I've been following for the longest and kind of just dig his vibe. I'm a big MF Doom fan, and I feel like as local artist, he kind of embodies not so much like the masked kind of vibe, but just like that underground and that just really good quality beats. Cliche, the guy who produces for him is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
so
music.
Those guys kick ass.
Yeah, those two together.
Yeah.
For sure.
But outside of that, The Proper Way I dig a lot. I mean, just good folky blues. They just play a wide range of great covers. I hope I don't offend. There's so many great local musicians. We just watched Riley, who Advent Horizon was one of our Booches. They do a band called Shuffle, and they just play whatever.
Huh.
And those guys are so talented. Like, they played up at the Powder Keg at Powder Mountain, and it was a gas. Nice. If you have a chance to check out Shuffle, fun party band. If you get them for your events. They do events all the time, weddings, all that. So.
Nice. All right. Do you have like a favorite place to hang out around here?
Oh, I'm kind of a homebody. My wife is a big homebody, but if I were to go, I used to have like a major coffee shop vibe. When I was younger, like high school, I loved 30th Street Grounds for Coffee was like my favorite place to go hang and draw and just chill. But now that I'm older, I would have to say, I mean, Wendy's is just a cool vibe because you get to have your own dinner place.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like enclosed, that Japanese style where you sit in. So when you have a cool crowd of people, like friends, we used to always go with a big crew from Powder Mountain and just have this party in their little private rooms. And I love that vibe.
Yeah. Where do you snowboard? Where's the best place to snowboard?
I mean, I don't want to tell you because Powder Mountain, I think, is in this area just grassroots, cool, and now that they're kind of controlling ticket sales, it will forever be one of the best places to go because you're not going to max out, and they preserve the powder. Literally, they open up zones, and they have this whole strategy to maintaining good quality snow. But I've been spending a lot of time in Nordic this year just because it's been such a busy year everywhere else. And I think that little mountain has a lot of potential. Their new lift is a blast.
Yeah.
They have a lot of cool, unique, kind of funky, steep terrain, like out of nowhere. It's short, but it's fun and technical.
I was actually just talking to someone about how that's like you can go up and hit like 2-3 hours.
Yep.
It's not an all-day thing. It's just like a quick hit the mountain, come
it
back.
It works if you're that kind of person who just needs to go up for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And you don't feel guilty because it's cost effective, and it's a cool, and it has that grimy local vibe. Like, it's just homeboys are working there. And it's just like it has what Powder used to feel like.
Yeah.
And Powder still has a little bit of that, but
yeah, they do good.
They do. And I love Basin. I can't hate on Basin. If you love steep, powerful terrain, if you love to hike and experience shoots and like big terrain, amazing.
Yeah. What about just other general local businesses?
I mean, I support all of them if I could. I think if I could name every last one, I think there's a lot of companies doing cool stuff. I'll always shout out Grounds for Coffee on 25th. Sadie's just an amazing person, and I just dig what she does on everything that she purveys out there, puts out there. I love Daily Rise and what those guys are doing. They've been a big player in the community for quite a few years now. You see them at all the farmers market. They're helping, putting stuff up. Like, you just got these people who are in and around all these events. And I'm not always seeing everybody who's involved, but, those are the guys who've been around. And, there's ones that have come and gone that you wish were still around. But, I got to give shout out. Like, if you love good vegan food, Cuppa is a really cool place. My close friend, girlfriend owns that operation, Natalie, and go check out Natalia. Sorry, she'll kill me for that. I called her Natalie. She'll murder me. She's going to be so mad that I said that. I do that every time. But Natalia from Cuppa, go catch them and check them out.
Nice. Let's see.
And I have to shout them out because they made the best cup of golden tea I've had. Lotus Cafe is worth a shout out as well.
Yeah. Nice. All right. I think I had those written down on my phone, but it's here. I think that's all of them.
Okay.
All right. I think I might have gotten it all.
Okay.
Is there anything we didn't touch on?
I don't think so. Dennis, anything we need to
I think we hit it.
Put a spotlight on? Okay.
I don't think so. All right.
Cool.
Nice. Thanks, man.
Thank you.